We're live.
Hey, John off.
What's up, guys? What is up? Welcome back to another episode of Deck Talk Podcast. And boy, we have got a guest today. The Shallow Water King is in the house. But guys, if you don't know, I'm Colin Burnett.
That's right, Colin, and I'm normally. But first, we got to talk about a little bit of business. We got to talk about the sponsor for tonight's episode. Add a touch of swag and class to your clothing with a custom embroidered logo by T2C Embroidery. Breathe some life into your brand's identity, whether it's a custom logo on apparel or detailed designs on promotional items. From shirts to jackets, hats to bags, add that personal touch that leaves a lasting impression. Everything from sports teams, schools, events, company logos, names, slogans, and a whole lot more. With 35 years experience and serving the Southeast Tennessee area since 2022. For all your embroidery needs, contact Tina Lowry at 423-402-1089 or email her at T2C Embroidery at Outlook.com. Again, that is T2C Embroidery at Outlook.com. Man, Colin, you are spot on. We have been looking forward to this guest, well, really for a couple of years, but we finally got our dates together where we could get this man on. But anyway, here we go. Let's try to give him the proper introduction that this man so well deserves. Okay, let's give this a roll. He is one of the, if not the best, close up and personal shallow water fishermen today, with over 13 years as a full time pro bent between FLW, Major League Fishing, and BASS. He has eclipsed the $2.5 million mark in career earnings with 63 top tens and 11 times been the last angler standing on Championship Sunday. In 2010, he took home the coveted FLW Angler of the Year title and has amassed 6 Bassmaster Classic appearances, 1 Red Crest appearance, 7 Forest Wood Cups, and in 2016 he made fishing history by becoming the first pro ever to win a modern day world championship tournament from, and get this, from an aluminum boat. The pride of DeBerry, Florida, Mr. John Cox.
What's up, brother?
Hey,
What's going on?
hey, man, that was nice. I kind of that got me pumped up. I don't know where that 2.5 million or whatever it was, where that money went, but a lot of those events were a lot of fun.
Oh man,
Yeah,
yes
yeah.
sir, yes sir.
So, John, one thing we want to know is how did y'all come out with the hurricanes? Did y'all scave out pretty good, or?
Yeah, I mean, it was really a miracle. I felt terrible. I walked out my front door and it was like nothing even happened here, and the
Right.
the neighbors had a lot of stuff and it was it was a miracle.
Yeah.
So we went around, helped a lot of people clean up and stuff and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's just crazy how much rain we got in such a short amount of time. But I think everything's starting to kind of come around. I know there's a lot of rebuilding, especially over by the coast, that needs to be get
Yeah.
done. That's going to probably take a while. Our area, I'm more like Central Florida area, and
Right.
now that we got the flooding going down, the only issue we're having is a lot of sinkholes. From
Right.
sitting water and water running under the roads and
Right.
storm drains popping and stuff. So that's about the only thing that's been
Right.
that's we're gonna keep seeing
Right.
the effects of it here
Yeah.
for a while. I
Yeah.
got a feeling.
Yeah, we're in the Chattanooga, Tennessee area, and
Hmm.
so we got Chickamauga, Nickajack, and Gunnersville right in our back door, and but we're seeing from the first one that came through that flooded North Carolina, like
Hmm.
our like Tennessee River, the main channels is like chocolate milk for the past month and a half. It is not,
Really?
yeah, and I mean, it's not. It's starting to get a little bit better, but it's still
Yeah.
chocolate milk. And I mean, you don't when you go out there, John. There's nobody on the main lake channel. They're all in the back of the creeks,
Really?
and so yeah,
Wow.
it's crazy because you know
What?
how you've been on Chick a couple times. You actually won a tournament on Chick, and
Yeah.
so you know how it is. You know that everybody besides yourself will get a ticket to go sit on the ledge, see who gets the ledge next. So it's
Yeah.
not happening
Yeah.
right now.
No. Wow. Man, I wish I could get over there and get some fishing done.
Yeah,
It's probably pretty good up there on the bank right
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
yeah, they are getting. Well, it's kind of funny is that like on the creek channels, they still have that little bit of a ledge, and so everybody
Yeah.
went from the main river channel ledges to the creek channel ledges, and you would be the only person. You and myself would be the only two people that's up on the bank that's just pounding because
Yeah.
your fishing and my fishing go hand in hand. And I tell people if it's 12 foot and below, I'm right
Yeah.
there, and I'd rather it be shallower. So,
That's right. Yeah.
so
Mine is if you can't touch it with your rod tip, you're too deep.
so, but John, yeah, we want to thank you again for coming on. But
Thanks
we've
for
had
having
the
me.
privilege, guys, to be able to talk to John the past two classics, and if you hadn't seen the video from when we were in Knoxville, we actually got to talk to John actually on the boat right before the Sunday blast off, and
Hmm.
so we talked to him for a little bit, but then let him get on out. But guys, this is one of my favorite fishermen of all time, just because just how he fishes, guys, and he just I don't know. I mean, I just love seeing shallow water fishing and then seeing frog bites up shallow. It's just nothing
Oh,
like it.
yeah.
But John, what I want to get into, what got you fishing into 10 rigs? Is it because of how shallow you like to fish, or is there another reason why you prefer fishing out of a 10 rig?
I mean, to start was, when I first started fishing, I mean, that's what I had. I had a 12-foot rowboat that me and my mom bought from the neighbor for like $75, like, and I remember I had the oars and I was just begging her and my dad, like, hey, I need this trolling motor to put on there, and so, I mean, that's kind of what I started in. And, it just, I fished out of it for so long, and I did fish out of some glass boats, actually, quite a few other ones. There was a few years where I just borrowed boats, so I got to really fish out of a lot of different ones, and I always just found myself going back to the aluminum boats. It's
Yeah,
just like I would fight it. Like I remember one time I was at Kentucky Lake, and I had a fiberglass Triton at the time, and the motor blew up or something, and I was like, I'm done. And the only boat I could borrow was an aluminum Triton. That my buddy Stuart
right.
Fraser lent me from Clark's Marine. Doesn't even know me and lent me this boat, let me fish the tournament. So I feel like just the whole time fishing, over the so many years, it was aluminum's where I'm supposed to be.
Right.
I don't fight anymore. Just like the shallow fishing, I tried to go out deep. I tried to do other stuff, and where I love it the most is right on the bank. So
Oh, and I'm right there with you. I mean, Norman, he's more of an offshore kind of fisherman,
hmm
and when if he's in my boat and stuff like that, I tend to go out there for a few minutes, and then I always tend to go back up beating that bank because I'm like, he's like, man, they're out there, and I'm like, they're right here too. I mean,
yeah.
so, but what with you shallow water fishing is what is your favorite technique that if you just had to go out there and to catch a fish, what is your technique that you are going to be using?
So my baits would vary. Whether if I was fun fishing, I've really gotten into like the coal shads, the Nessies, the soft
Right.
live baits and the swim baits and stuff. I've been really getting into that for fun fishing. I would rather go out and throw that and watch something come up and get that.
yeah,
Pretty much over a lot of things. And
Right.
but if I had to go out there, depending on the conditions, and I had to catch something, it would definitely be Berkeley General. I mean,
Oh
that's
yeah.
honestly my transition and from doing okay to doing really well a lot of the times is when I really learned that bait and learned
Right.
how versatile it was. And when you get out there, sometimes it's not going to work out that day. It's
Right.
just in being able to pick up on that and knowing it's not going to work out that day. I'm able to pick that worm up, savor the day,
Yeah.
and hope the next day is going to be different.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And it's amazing that there's not a lot more other anglers that, I mean, when they pull into a pocket, I mean, we've talked to quite a few other anglers that we've had on the podcast, and I've asked them because they're all about the live scope and stuff like that, and I'm like, well, why don't you just go up shallow? And they're like, John Cox has all them fish trained. So I was like,
Yeah.
well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I I my favorite, I don't know, I love watching it, especially when they got the camera on your boat. I love watching you go up shallow throwing that frog. It's something
Oh
about it.
yeah.
There was
Oh man.
one, uh oh shoot, where was it this year? You got up into a pocket
Mm,
that
Uh,
I think it was less than a foot deep or something like that you had got them up, and you was just waxing them that day,
yeah.
or actually that weekend. You
Yeah.
stayed back up in there all weekend, and I was like,
Yeah.
man, he is having a blast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's nothing like that frog bite when you see him come up and just annihilate that frog. That frog shoots about a foot up off the
Right.
water, and
Yeah.
there's nothing like it.
No, that tournament was really special. That was on a Wheeler this
We
year,
yeah.
and man, I remember getting in there, and in practice only had one bite there, and I was rotating my way to get there, trying to get something going, and there was boats everywhere. And when I got there, I caught one, and I was like, "Well, let me try a little bit," and I threw around for a while, and I just remember putting my rod tip in, and I think I was 4 guides, in that milfoil, and I was like, "Man, that's pretty shallow there," and it just kept producing fish.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys ever saw the aerial video or pictures, but it was like you could see all my lines. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
and I'm talking, I was throwing thousands and
Yeah.
like I would throw, and like when one would finally get it, it would catch me off guard so bad. Like I was like, I'd wait, I'd be like, set the hook, it would take a second, and yeah, that was a super fun tournament. It reminded me so much of grinding, like when I throw the Fritz side and I'm cranking and just fishing for 5-6 bites that day. That was the same thing, but with the frogs. So it was really
Yeah.
Yeah.
cool.
So I heard, uh I think it might have been on Mercer's podcast that they were talking about you, and they they said something because they were talking about like how many tournaments that you get into, and I knew you got into a lot,
Mm,
but when they started explaining all the tournaments and stuff that you got into, and they're like, he he's going out there and he's like, well, let's see, I'm trying to word it to where how he did, but it's something like to the fact of all John wants to do is like, if he wins, that's great. But all he wants to do is just make sure that every tournament that he's cashing that check.
mm,
And I was like, if a lot of people had that mindset, they would, a lot of stress would be taken off of them. And I was like,
right.
that's something that every angler should take into effect or into account. In my opinion, is you might not have it that weekend
Right.
or whatever, but as long as you keep yourself in contentions, I mean, that's why you've gone to 6 classics and
Mm,
you've gone to the Red Crest and stuff like that, and you've had yourself as Angler of the Year, is because you are probably, in my opinion, one of the most consistent fishermen. Because I think, like in bass, I think you've done like 90 tournaments in bass, and you've cast a check in 70 to 73 tournaments or something like that.
mm,
So to me, I was like, he's doing all that just shallow
yeah.
water fishing, and I was like, that right there is consistency, and consistency is that you don't let yourself spin out on that.
Right.
And so I want to say, man, that's to me that's one unbelievable stat, because to me I'm always trying to swing for some fences, and
Yeah.
and when and then just watching you over the years, just how you just keep your head down and just keep on grinding. And I know that after on Wheeler, after throwing that many casts in there, I'd be like, man, are they even in here? And you made
Yeah.
a weekend out of it, and so
Yeah. Yeah. My camera guy, he said, man, if we had to come out another day, he would quit because it was so painful. It was so
Yeah.
hot. And but yeah, but that's the thing, winning. I don't feel like you can go out there and say I'm going to win this thing. I mean, I guess you could, but I've never been able to. And it's
right,
almost like when the winning happens, something special happens.
yeah,
I mean, I can't think of any tournament that I've won that I've gone into it and I'm like, wow, nothing really crazy happened. I just
yeah,
won, but there's always some kind of magic that happens. Um, so my mindset's go out there, do the best you can, shoot for that $10,000 check,
yeah.
and if the magic starts to happen, then ride it through the through
Yeah,
the weekend. But
that's what they
yeah,
said. They said John Cox goes into the tournaments just trying to catch, or just to get $10,000. That's all he
yeah,
wants.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
Now,
yeah,
so,
yeah. That's a
like,
lot of money.
yeah, that is.
yeah. Now, how hard is it, John? Like, just for example, if you were on day two of a tournament and you were
Mhm,
catching a lot of numbers and they're all, 3.5, 4 pounders, you
mhm.
have a good bag going, but knowing you could use those fish the next day, knowing you already have a spot in the third day, how hard is it to leave fish knowing you're on them, but
Mhm.
knowing you could use them the next day and you don't want to waste them? How hard is it to leave them fish to go try to find more fish, maybe find other spots that you don't have
Right.
for the third and fourth day?
Yeah, I mean it's really hard. I think because a lot of times I've seen it go both ways. Sometimes I've left them, come back the next day, can't get bit, or something
Right,
destroyed the spot. Whether as other people come in and fish it, or it rains or something happens.
right,
Um, but I've also seen it, where you just feed on them fish, and then you upgrade a couple pounds, and it
yeah,
really
Yeah,
carries you through the
yeah,
week. They keep biting. I think it just really depends on the body of water we're on.
right,
If we're on like a great lake or something that is has plentiful amounts of fish, I think you have to burn those spots down every day because otherwise you're not going to compete with the guys at the top.
right, right,
And but compared if you go to somewhere like somewhere tough where you only get 5-6 bites a day, man, if you got you know 3 and 4 pounders somewhere, man, you get five of them. You gotta
yeah,
yeah,
you don't want to hurt them too bad.
yeah,
no,
yeah.
that is true. Now, what? Let's see. I want to. We had talked to you, and I've heard you say this on different platforms as well. But when we were interviewing you at the Classic in Knoxville, and we brought up the forward facing sonar, and you said that it's in my truck, and so and I think it's funny that people has been I think it was Patrick Walters was talking like, yeah, we've had forward facing sonars for 5, 6, 8 years or whatever, and we've had it on our boat, and John Cox has had it in his truck for that long. So, but but what how do you find fish with even within the shallow water, even without? What is your tip to be able to find fish without forward facing sonar in shallow water?
I mean, the one thing I do a lot of, I try to cover a lot of water. I mean, that's probably a huge key. Try to move around, and you're always trying to. Well, I'm always trying to plan for where the next bite's going to be. Whether it's a couple hours away, whether it's days away, whether it's towards the end of the week. And I'm
Yeah,
trying to, as I'm practicing, as I'm fishing, I'm trying to read some of these areas, with my eyeballs to say, hey, I had a couple miss me here, but 3 days from now we're gonna get some rain. Maybe I can go back in that same area. They'll fire off. It'll be a good spot. And I feel like a lot of places I end up fishing and doing well, you don't really catch them in a lot of conditions. There's a
Right.
certain condition for those areas, and I think it's just from going all the time and kind of just
Right.
reading the weather and just feeling. It's crazy when the lake comes alive. That's what it's hard to explain to somebody, but someone that goes out a lot, you're out there, it's just kind of dead, it's stagnant. Then all of a sudden, you start seeing some bait activity, you start
Bait.
seeing
Yeah.
some birds moving, you hear one bust, and then like you can almost just feel the bite coming,
No. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's what I live for, I think.
Yeah. Now you hear the word pattern used quite a bit by fishermen and anglers. Once you start catching a few as you practice and as you're covering water as you're moving, what do you consider a pattern once you start catching a few, and how, and as far as once you feel that you have an area down that you're starting to catch fish in, which you might consider the pattern, um, how soon do you get out and know you could go back there on day one and be able to catch them the same
Right.
way you're catching them at practice?
Yeah, well, I think what happens, especially because the tournament's so spread out a lot of times, and what I notice nowadays too, with there's a lot more people fishing these days. So like a lot of these fish in this shallow water, they're not staying in the same places. Like
Right.
for instance, whatever 10 years ago, whatever it was, and so I feel like you almost have to figure out that pattern throughout the day. And what I do, I just start fishing in the area where I'm thinking, hey, this is some fishy stuff. I've caught some here before, or have a really good feeling about it.
Yeah.
And in those first few bites, then I try to, okay, they're on these little, these drains out on the tip on these pieces of wood, or they're back in these coves, or they're under these docks, or there's so many docks into a pocket. And I think when I start getting those bites throughout the day, very small patterns, it's not, and just picking up on that small stuff, then you can kind of run it in other places.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Because especially I've noticed with being a shallow water fisherman that the bite for me tends to change a little bit. Like I'll run into about 4 or 5 different bites during the day
Hmm.
with the shallow, and you just got to make sure that you're staying ahead of what that bite is. For me, that's
Hmm.
what I got to do. I got to stay ahead of it, and so that yeah, I really enjoy this because I love just to talk because most people always forward facing sonar, forward
Yeah.
facing sonar,
Oh yeah.
but
Yeah.
uh, to have somebody on here that is I consider the shallow water king
Thanks.
is but like when do you with being a shallow water fisherman do you like let's say you're going to Wheeler or something like that,
Mhm.
do you use like Google Maps to be able and like see like when the water's down or even like on the Tennessee rivers and stuff like that, to where you see that the water has dropped to winter pool?
Mhm.
Do you use that to be able to see like, all right, here's some structure back up in here that I may not have been able to see?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of map study. I mean, you got to think I've been studying a lot of these lakes since I was 20.
All right.
So it's like a lot of these things I like. I mean, I mean, it sounds great. I have a lot of the lakes, a lot of the low water images. Like just I like remember them, from
Right.
all the times. But nothing beats going out there, putting the trolling motor down, and learning it. I think with your eyes or by feel or while you're fishing these areas, because even though you have a good low water image or something, you can find some really good stuff. But there's always new stuff that happens from like the flooding or
Right.
whatever it is, and you get like grass growing, and just like at Wheeler this last time, I mean that grass growing in that one little pocket.
Yeah.
It wasn't anywhere else. So it was just going out there and finding that stuff fresh, it seems to be a big deal. But the maps definitely can put you in the right direction on some stuff,
Yeah.
and it does help looking at doing a lot of map study.
Yeah. Because on Chick, like I'll go on the Google Maps and stuff and then look at it and like I'll focus in on one slough
Hmm.
and then go down to where the water level is, and then I'll mark them, and then be able to I could transfer them over to my depth finder to where when I go out and be like, here's a stump I didn't see that was
Right.
it's in about 7 foot of water that
Yeah.
I had totally missed, didn't even know. And so um, what I don't know if you want to talk about this. If not, we can just go right on by. I like because I know that was it 2017 or 18 that
Uh-huh.
you had Brandon New on your boat, or was it Brandon Cobb? I can't remember.
Oh,
Where you had
Brian knew.
Brian
Oh yeah.
Brian,
Yeah.
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 Uh,
When I
you
got
had
run over.
yes.
Yes.
So can you explain, and what you was talking about, where you had an accident here last week as well
Yeah.
at the boat ramp and stuff? But
Yeah.
can you explain like how important it is to when you're out on a boat that it is to be safe and to make sure that you doing everything you can to be safe
Right.
and out on the water?
Oh yeah, I mean the water's it is a super fun place. But anytime you're out in the, I mean you can easily die out there. Crazy stuff happens.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean number one thing is you got to have the kill switch hooked up.
yeah,
That's like before and when I was younger I would never really understood like I'm gonna you don't realize how important that is. But something can happen. That was actually in
was it
2015.
15?
Yeah, and we were swapping boats, when you made the top 10. So I was running I think a Crestliner with a 150 up to the last day, and and I had a shot to win the tournament. And the boat I was in, it had some kind of new trimming system on the motor or whatever, and it ended up I let off and it just trimmed out on its own. So new went over my head and got thrown
Yeah,
out. I tried to hang on it, luckily the kill switch was hooked up, so it cut the engine, but I still got hit pretty hard with the,
yeah.
the gear case and stuff, and you know,
Mm.
still slightly recovering from some of that stuff, but I'm
Yeah,
doing good. I'm alive. That's the
yeah.
main
Yeah.
thing, and yeah, so I can't complain.
No, yeah, the good Lord was definitely looking after both of y'all on that instance on there. Um, and so, because that's one thing, like we're big about is making sure that when you go out, we want everybody to have fun while they're out there, enjoy catching
Yeah.
fish and stuff. But we want to be able to hit on like safety, like how important it is to one to have your PFD on,
Yeah.
and just like what you said, that kill switch
Yeah.
is a big thing to be able. And this past year, I mean, was kind of rough in the fishing industry with boat accidents and stuff, and
Hmm.
so, but yeah, we
But
go ahead.
oh, and that's what I think. Just with how many of us are doing it now, how many people are out on the lake.
Yes,
I mean, it's just smart to you always put the life jacket on, hook up the kill switch. I mean, I just I remember more as a kid running around without it and stuff. There was nobody out there,
right,
you
right,
know. And now I think just getting in the habit, like I had my kids, my wife, anytime they get in it and drive, the life jacket's always right there on the floor. You hook it
yeah,
up, you know,
yeah.
and
It
it's
just
just
takes
part of turning
just
the key.
just another extra second that you take. Just I mean, and that one little second of you taking and putting that sucker on,
Hmm.
it could save your life in a second. So,
Hmm.
but I want to know, what does it feel like to be able to walk across the biggest stage in fishing at the Classic? Um, we haven't been able. We've been there and watched you walk across the
Hmm.
stage, and and so everybody that we have that's been able to walk across that stage, we've always asked, what is it? What is John Cox thinking when he's going? They're driving your boat, pulling your boat into the arena, and you have thousands of people in the crowd just watching and cheering you on. What is it? What is John Cox feeling when he's getting pulled into that and standing next to Mercer?
I honestly I don't even believe that. that's actually me going through there. It's kind of because you watch all these people do it and stuff, and like it's honestly all the few classics I've been to. I was kind of hanging in there, but that Knoxville one, actually having a shot to win.
Yeah, yeah,
That's kind of that tournament was kind of when I remember getting pulled in there, like, oh my gosh, like I'm here and I'm actually gonna have a shot to win this thing,
yeah.
and it was it. I mean, it is. I get chills thinking about it, and it's just you dream about it for so long. You watch other people do it, you're just like, man, there's it just it's amazing that we're able to go fishing and go to this giant tournament. That's like, I mean, it's
Yeah,
incredible, right? So,
right.
Yeah.
um,
And then just to see, I mean, because I can imagine going, because I've been to the one that was at Gunnersville,
mhm.
and then went to Knoxville, and then we went to Tulsa. But just being as a spectator and part of the media and stuff with Bass, just seeing everybody. I mean, it's not just in the arena; it's at the blast off. That I mean,
Mhm.
which in Tulsa you had a 90-minute drive to go out to if you're, but and I don't think it's going to be any better here this next year either. But but
Yeah.
but just seeing everybody at blast off and Knoxville, I was surprised. Like even on day one, like how many people. I mean, didn't show up to work to go to come
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
watch
How
y'all
many
just
people got
blasting.
fired over that day?
Right,
Yeah. That week.
right. But just but again, as a spectator, it just amazes me like how many people will go just to see you hold up a brown or green fish.
Mhm.
And so, but what has what has been your most memorable time fishing professionally?
I mean, gosh, I mean, it would be a toss up between the Forest Wood Cup.
Yeah,
That was an incredible tournament. I mean, I never really expected to ever be able to win one of those. Because it was in August. It was hot and
right,
like, and just the way that tournament played out, where I'm in a creek and then all of a sudden it rains the night before a tournament starts. All this duckweed flows in. I got one frog in my little dry box in the front, that I'm like, oh, this is perfect. I tie it on and win the tournament frogging all
right,
the whole tournament.
right.
It's unbelievable. And that one's probably one of the most. And then, man, I'd have to go all the way back to that first win I got on the FLW tour on the Red River, going through the pipe. I mean, I was living. I had Nan and Lil was on the way, and we were living at my parents, and it was me and Keith Carson. This was our last go. We were out of money. We went to the first couple, lost the little bit of money we won the year before, and we got there, and we were like, well, this is it. And we were make the best of it, and we didn't even fish together, and I won and he won the co-angler side.
Awesome.
And it was so, because it was just, we're thinking, oh, this is the end, and it ended up being just the beginning.
Right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, what would fishing be if that would have turned around with not having John Cox out there just to
I
so
don't know. I
but
don't know.
so when we talked to you in Knoxville at the docks,
Hmm.
you had your daughter there with you
Hmm.
and was there at the or the boat dock with you. Does she get to come to a lot of your tournaments or
Oh
uh,
yeah. Well, a lot of them, they'll show up. Like if they haven't seen me for 2 weeks or something, they always come out and they'll
right,
come stay with me for the weekend or something. Just to keep me going. And
right,
yeah, they'll all fly. This last tournament we were at Lake of the Ozarks, and I mean, I had my kids came out, my father-in-law, mother-in-law, the wife, everybody came out, and it's really good when we don't get to, we're always so busy fishing these tournaments and stuff, but it's so cool to be able to vacation at some of these towns, even if it's only for a day or two
right,
after the tournament. I almost think that might be the best part of this whole job, or some of these towns and places that we would never even know of if it wasn't for the tournament being there. And
right.
Yeah, I mean that's a part of that's the best part of the job.
um, let's see. So, what do you do? Like, if you had a day off or a couple days off, what are you doing to kind of to wind yourself down? To kind of just, I'm just going to have a relaxing day. What is
Uh,
John Cox doing on a relaxing day?
Oh gosh. Well, if we are anywhere, New York, Michigan, anywhere smallmouth country, my off days we are going fishing somewhere. Uh, you know, I mean it. I don't really. I don't. I might take an off day. We might go like hiking or something, or do something like in town, go to,
Right,
museum or something. But 90% of the time, we're, my whole family's all in on it. We have to talk every year, and if everybody's not all in, we'll back off. We'll regroup, but everybody's all in. So they know if I had a bad tournament, we need to correct something in the
right,
off days. So. It's we really all work together, and it's pretty neat.
That's
yeah.
cool.
So, where where has if you could go and fish somewhere, where would be the place that you would go and fish? Is it, I mean, as in like any state, that where would you want to go and fish?
I like it when we go up north. We did Saginaw Bay this year.
Yep.
That was a lot of fun. There's a lot of ponds actually in Michigan that are really fun to fish. Same thing in Minnesota and Wisconsin and stuff. I really like a lot. I like pond hopping. That's my when I
Right.
go to New York. I go into the Adirondack Mountains there, and there's all these little lakes and stuff. I like to pond hop them and stuff. And where you can dump in, you fish for a couple hours, and you're like, oh, let's go to the next one, and
Right.
Yeah,
that's what I like doing. That
yeah.
that's my
Hey,
favorite thing.
what is your favorite lake that you've fished that either BASS or when you're fishing Major League Fishing, one of the tournament trails went to? And also, a second part of that question, John, is what is your least favorite place that you've been with the tournament circuit?
Um, yeah, so I guess my favorite, um, honestly, my favorite should be Smith Lake because it's been so good to me. That and Chick, but yeah, I probably have to go with, I really enjoy Champlain. Champlain practice is fun. The tournament's fun. Um, that's been my favorite since, first time I went there, like, when I was 20, we would fly out there and catch a ride with, somebody we knew, and we'd fish with them for like, me and Keith, we'd stay out there for a month sometimes. And we just, I remember one time we ended up flying to like Baltimore or something. And then, we were like calling everybody we knew, hoping someone was going towards the lake because our flight didn't get all the way to Plattsburgh, and yeah, we stayed there for a while. So that's got to be my favorite. My least favorite, gosh, I really don't have a least favorite because some of the places that guys don't like, like Sabine River, like tough places, I always feel like I do so well at those at the tough ones. So I
Yeah.
don't want to hate on them. They're tough,
Right.
but I don't know. I feel like I can't hate on them because they always seem to go well.
Right. Well, we asked Ike that same question,
Hmm.
and I can't remember what he said that his favorite lake was, but I can remember what he said that his least favorite was.
What was that?
And he says, well, it's not really a lake. He says it's a state. He says, I hate going to Florida.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. And I can understand that when Florida fish don't want to bite, I don't know if there's anything you can do to force them to bite. Maybe
Right,
now this day and age with forward facing, you can maybe pester them a little more and get them to bite. But how we used to fish Florida, man, when you get a cold front coming in and they would shut down, it would be like the fish aren't even in the lake,
right,
you
Yeah,
know. And so I can understand his pain with Florida. I love the Florida tournaments because I usually get to stay at home,
right.
which is really nice. I don't have to organize tackle or anything. I just, grab my couple
grab
bags
and
of
go.
stuff I need, yeah, and go. But yeah, they are. I mean, they can. I've had some of my worst finishes in Florida, so
Yeah.
it does. Florida gets tough.
Yeah. Now, how do you go about like Norman's from? He lived his whole life besides here the past 4.5, 5 years. He lived in Sebring and Lake
Mhm.
Placid area,
Yep,
and
I was just there today.
oh,
As a matter of fact, get off beat a little bit. I seen a post by one of my friends, Jeff Baylog, said he had got a chance to take a picture with you. You pulled up into a taco shop and coffee shop there over
Yep.
there today.
Yep, yeah, I was there today after my when my kids had our cross country race, and I was like,
Yeah,
I'm gonna stop in there. Super cool store. I
yeah,
mean, it's in such a perfect location.
yeah,
With Istapoga right there, Placid. You got all those. Same thing we
yeah,
were talking about. Favorite places to fish. Man,
yeah.
you can pond hop there for days.
Oh
oh
yeah,
yeah, that
And yeah,
and
and honestly, they Adam there. They had Adam and his wife. They had the best. I had a frozen coffee and a burrito. I mean, it was.
what a
I was like, this is
combination.
the best bait store ever.
oh man,
So, but how do you? Because growing up, I was born and raised in Nashville, so we had Old Hickory and Percy Priest, and
Mhm.
then in '99 we moved to Chattanooga, and so we've got one of the best bass lakes that's directly in our backyard with Chick, and
Mhm.
then we got Nickajack, which is a hidden gem,
yeah,
and
Yeah.
then we've got Gunnersville again. I mean, I can get to Gunnersville in about 45 minutes. I'm at
Mhm.
Nickajack in 20, Chickamauga in 2025. But in Florida, for me, it's so hard. The hardest thing that I have is trying to find the proper place
Mhm.
because you go as soon as you drop the boat in, you're like, there's a fish should be there, there's a fish should be there.
Yeah.
Everything looks like there's a 10-pounder on it.
Right.
yeah.
So how do you go about trying to find the right area to fish, especially down there in Florida, like where everything
Yeah.
just looks so good to that
Right.
fish should be on?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's bottom. You always you can catch some in that nasty bottom. A lot of times, you try to find a little bit better bottom. Cleaner water usually helps.
Right.
Just the spraying is kind of caught up with us, I think,
Yeah.
over the years. So the bottom, you don't have that good spawning bottom like you had. You do in areas, but nothing like before. So you do get a lot of dead
Right.
water. Um, you know, but yeah, I mean they're doing a lot of stuff. They're doing dredging now. So like anytime they do a fresh dredge or they plant any kind of new vegetation, I mean it's like the lake turns on fire in
Yeah.
those areas.
Right.
So I think really finding some of that stuff is the key to find them.
Right.
Because like you said, it is, and that's what makes Florida tough. You go to a lake and you might fish miles, and all those fish are in a 30 by 30
Yeah.
area
Yeah.
in the
Right.
same cover as
Yeah.
everywhere else.
And I was
It's
just
that
gonna,
needle in the haystack.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I was just gonna attest, and you could probably attest to this also, John. Once you find a good area, like you're talking about, like you're describing, once you find that area, your best option is just put the trolling motor down and cover water and go along that edge
Mhm.
because like you're saying, you could go, for example, on Okeechobee, you could fish a mile and a half without a
Yeah.
bite, and
Right.
same kind of water, and all of a sudden get 3, 4, 5 pound bites in a row,
Yeah.
and the area is identical to what you just fished a mile and a half
Yeah.
back. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I beat myself up when we go down there, and I'm like,
Yeah.
man. And thank goodness I have Norman with me because he will. I'm like, let's go over there. That looks good, and he's like,
Yeah.
nah,
Yeah.
we'll just keep on going.
Yeah.
And
And
he's like, you stick up to the Tennessee River, and we'll be all right.
yeah.
So, uh, we got, let's see, a comment that says, good to see you, John. Gotta love the fishing in the dirt. Thanks for your sharing your knowledge with us, everyday anglers. When do you decide to move from the spot you were expecting to produce, and do you go back to it if it does not.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole thing of when you're not forward facing is that decision of casting, not getting bites, knowing they more than likely are probably there, but they could have left,
Right.
and that is it's very hard. Like I caught myself not to just go back on last week. I had first 2 days of tournament went pretty well. I moved around really well. I was on Lake of the Ozarks. Well, the last day I felt like settling into an area. I only needed like 16 pounds to win. I'm like, if I settle down, I know there's big ones here, and it was I couldn't pull the plug quick enough to go
Right.
somewhere else.
Yeah.
And it ate up all my time. And it cost me winning the tournament. But I mean, I think it's just trial and error. And I think watching your surroundings, seeing what the bait's doing. If it goes dead and there's no bait, no movement, I feel like you got to get out of there and go try something else,
Right.
and then when conditions change, maybe peek at it again, So, I mean, but
Let's.
I have gone back to the same spot or area 5, 6 times in the day sometimes. When there's something there, you're trying to,
Yeah,
you know.
and I've noticed like, and correct me if I'm wrong. Um, it's like when I'm shallow fishing. Excuse me. That the fish, it seems like it's more so since the forward facing sonar has come to play in more effect. That the
Mhm,
fish are kind of, they're not hunkering down as much in
mhm,
one area, that they're kind of, but they make like a circle, a pass
yeah.
coming through. And
Mhm.
so you got to find out where they're at. Excuse me, I got all this sinus stuff that's
Oh yeah,
driving me
yeah.
nuts.
Oh, it's okay.
But you got to find out like where that spot is that they're ready to bite.
Right.
Um, because like I've seen it, like let's say for instance going back on Chickamauga, like going back in Chester Frost, like
Hmm.
to where you got a shallow to where it's 2 to 4 foot of water that they'll come up, and but there's a little ditch that comes in, and so it maybe drops down to 7, 8 foot, and
Hmm.
but they're not hitting like when they get out into the deeper part of the water.
Right.
They're hitting more or less in that like 4 to 3 foot, and
Right.
it's kind of like getting them timed in to where once they get into that
Right.
4 to 3 foot. Have you seen that to where that's
Yeah.
that they're kind of doing that?
Yeah, I mean a lot of times I mean it is a lot of the pressure that seems like it's moving them around more. I mean Gunnersville's I struggle at Gunnersville a lot. Those fish move a lot there, it
Yeah,
seems
they
like,
do.
and it's one of the more pressured lakes, but it handles it well, there's a lot of places for them to hide and stuff. So but I know exactly what you're talking about, how there's like those certain bite areas where they'll bite where they might be out further, where if you're out there fishing for them, you can't catch them. If you're
Right.
forward facing, you can probably work them and catch some. But I think a lot of that too has something to do with water temp too. A lot of times, like a lot of
Oh,
times,
okay.
either the water's too warm up there, and they're only sliding up to feed, and then they're backing off to kind of get in that more
Right.
preferred water temp range. So I've seen that, but yeah, definitely the pressure and stuff. Just like you said, it's almost like they're just kind of move. They're getting more nomadic.
Right. Right. Right.
They're not. They're the whole resident fish thing. I don't know if it's as much as it has been before. And maybe it's just the last couple years, but
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Them suckers are
Yeah.
moving.
Now,
That they are. That they are.
Yeah.
have you ever put the forward facing sonar or real time fish finder on your boat to assist you shallow? Just for example, like Scott won the Open on
Hmm.
Okeechobee, the first Open
Hmm.
of the season on Okeechobee this year, but he utilized forward facing sonar
Hmm.
to actually be able to see the fish in the reed clumps where they're
Yeah.
setting up to spawn, which
Hmm.
I thought was really, really amazing, to be able to
Yeah.
use that deep water technology shallow like that. But now they're
Hmm.
starting to use them in their shallower lakes. Have you ever, have you done that or not?
Yeah, so it's definitely the guys are getting good at it in the shallow water, and it's crazy
Yeah.
how how clear it can be now. It's getting better
Yeah.
and better every year. So I got a confession. I was down to the last day of alligator season, and I had one tag left, and I did put it on. I put it on. I went out there. The alligator went down. I could see him sitting on the bottom. I snagged him and got my last tag. And it was cool and stuff. And then I used it one other time. I was actually practicing for a tournament out here on the St. John's that they ended up canceling the NPFL. But I was using Keith Carson's boat. He just got off winning at St. Clair with it. And I was like, I was out there kind of bored. I was on a shell bar that I normally get a couple bites on. I was like, let me turn this on. And I turned it on, and I was like, I usually throw this way and catch one. I usually throw that way and catch one. And I shined that sucker over there, and I threw it right on the one fish that was sitting there, and he ate it. And I shined over to the other side where I usually make the other cast, threw over there and got that one on, shook it off. And I was with my brother was with me, and I'm like, put your jacket on. I was like, we're bringing this boat back. I just didn't like once you use that, there's no going back. And I was just like, I took Keith's boat back. I got my boat. I went back out, practiced normal, but it was scary good.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was crazy.
So another question is, when do you use Maxent chunk trailer on a swim jig versus a paddle tail style?
Yeah. So, a lot of times your paddle tail you know, um, or like something like a crawl that has a steady vibration behind the chatter, behind the swim jig. Like if you're, straight reeling it or so. I like that more. It's like when the fish get kind of weird, like either they're just coming in. It's more, I feel like that's more like certain bodies of water, like, tidal water. They like that more, that straight reel. Okeechobee gets like that a lot, where they like the straight reel. Just certain places kind of they really get onto that compared to when like some of the other lakes I go to, like any like reservoir lakes and stuff, or Chick or anything, where I'm actually putting the max scent meaty chunk on the back and swimming
Right.
it fast. I think that might be more of a gizzard shad kind of thing when they're chasing
Right.
gizzards or maybe big bluegills, a little more bigger bait, it seems like.
Yeah.
We have some new max scent shapes coming. I'm not
That
supposed to
was
say
going to be
anything yet, but I
that.
got a box full of them the other day, and man, it's gonna be exciting.
Yeah.
We got some good stuff. I don't know when. I don't know. I think I said I wasn't supposed to say anything till February, but it's
It's
we got
February,
some
right?
good. Yeah, we got some good stuff coming.
So that was going to be my next question, actually.
Mhm.
Uh, with what is, and it might be a different bait, but
Mhm.
what is something that came out in iCast
Mhm.
that you can talk about,
Mhm.
that you're looking forward to, in which I know you probably already had it throwing and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
what bait from like Berkeley or whatever that has come out at iCast that you're looking forward to being able to utilize, or something that
I,
we might be able to get this year with?
yeah. I mean, because I'm kind of thrown off. So, Nessie was last year, right, or was it this year? I think it was
Last
last
year.
year.
Last year, yeah.
Yeah. So this year it was probably the soft line through Shine Glide. I don't
Oh
know if you
yeah,
guys
Oh,
saw that.
yeah,
Yeah, that was. I actually got some the other day. Tack Warehouse finally got them in, and they sent me a few of them, and it's cool. It's lined through. It hooks to the one treble, and then it has a little piece in there that holds it. Uh, until you get the bite, and
yeah,
that bait's neat. It's not the same as the Nessie, and the Nessie had to do Nessie's a lot faster, I think.
yeah,
Um, but that bait, it's cool. You almost what I've been learning with it is you almost work it like it's a jerk shad fluke style,
right.
rod twitch,
yeah,
and man, that sucker, it darts around. That was probably from iCast. That was probably the
Yeah.
best thing that
yeah. Now
that
I tell
I
you, one of my favorite baits from Berkeley
mhm,
that I just started to utilize,
mhm.
because a buddy of mine, he's also a YouTuber. Um, he's the one that told me about it, and is like on Blue Heron Lakes is to burn the Berkeley Credge,
Yeah.
and that thing, and I've taken it even out on Chick. Like I found some like underwater springs and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
to where
Mm-hmm.
like one of them is oh shoot, what is it? Back up in Saudi Creek,
Mm-hmm.
and there's it's like maybe 4 foot of water,
Mm-hmm.
and so you don't see any kind of like fiberglass boats back up in there, and
Yeah.
so you just sneak right on
Yeah.
up, and there's
Yeah.
a big underwater spring, and it goes from like 4 foot down to, when I went over it, I think it was like 20 some odd foot.
Yeah.
But when I went over it, they were like suspended, like just on like over the spring.
Yeah.
And so I tried throwing a jerk bait, I tried throwing a
Mm-hmm.
swim bait, and then I was like, Alex was talking about just burning that thing
Yeah.
over it, and I cast it over it, and I burned that sucker. And next thing
Mm.
I know, wham! Just, and I was like,
Oh yeah.
heck yeah! And
Yeah.
so uh, I'm looking forward to getting it out on like Lake Lanier or Altoona and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that with them big old spots, and throwing it
Mm-hmm.
out there, and just, I mean, that has been my favorite bait here of late that I've been able to throw with Berkeley, has been that credge.
Yeah. Yeah. We were doing some videos with it, and it was it was pretty incredible. And that's like you said, we started reeling it back pretty quick,
Yeah.
and man,
Yeah.
it was impressive. And I'm not gonna say too much, but I think come January, February, uh, you know, it's there's going to be another a cred you're going to want to order,
Uh
some new
oh.
colors, and maybe maybe a little bigger. I don't know.
All right. I'm excited.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
but um, oh man, it's already almost been an hour. So, we get to talking, and we just
Oh
go
yeah,
down some
flies
rabbit
by.
holes, and it flies by.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so let's see. Um, let's see. John Pate says, "Do you prefer forward-facing sonar over natural fishing, which you were taught when you were young, all the way to now? It is more enjoyable to. What is more enjoyable to you? Which
Oh
we've kind
yeah,
of talked about it, that the
yeah.
forward-facing sonar stays in your truck instead of
Yeah, I'm not even. I mean, I know I should, but I'm not even going to bring it next year. I don't. I mean, I think I'm all in. I mean, if it gets to where I can't hang, I'll just go do something else.
right.
I'll go shiner fishing or something. I don't know.
Right.
I'll do something else. Who knows?
So,
I'll find something new.
what tournament, real quick, and I'll ask this, and then we've got one last question, and
Okay.
we'll let you go. But this next season,
Mhm.
uh, and uh, and you may just not want to talk about it. I meant to ask you one before but what do you think with the with Bass, the elites not having the tournament fees? What
Yeah.
is your opinion when you heard that? What was your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's I mean, I mean, it's cool. I mean, I thought about myself, when I was a 20-year-old kid and made it to the elites and I mean, I wasn't able to go. I don't know, 6, 7 years, 8 years. I could just never had that kind of money to come up
Right.
front. So that was what was keeping me back. But so I don't know. There was just a lot of side. It'd be oh man, 20-year-old me would have been cool. Hey, I could have got in then. But then me being old now, or kind of old or whatever you want to call it.
You're
I
younger
don't
than
think I
I
was
am.
ready at 20. I don't think I was ready as I wasn't ready to be a professional fisherman at 20.
Right, right,
So that was the other thing where it's like, you almost if you don't, I don't know. I feel like I've gone through so much, uh, to get here that I can really appreciate it.
right, right.
Like I mean, I know what I get to do is unreal, you know.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if just someone making it and automatically coming in and not having to invest, you know,
Right.
more money than their parents would make in a couple years. Like it's
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. So there's a lot of sides, but I mean I mean Bass, I mean they're kicking it around, you know, they're trying to find out, you know, and figure out what works, you know, and I mean, they're going to figure it out, you know.
Oh yeah.
We're going to figure out, and I mean, I think it's, you know, it's good that we're doing that. You know, maybe we'll do something else with the payouts, or try to get the payouts up some, you know, or
Yeah.
maybe they'll land another big sponsor or something. You know, a lot of stuff will come out, you know, or something will happen, you know, and
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
They're
it's going to be a
always
great,
working on.
yeah, it's going to be a great year either way. You know, it's just they got a really good schedule. You know, and I'm going to fish those, and then I got I'm going to actually tomorrow I'm going to try to get into some of the MLF invitationals, and then do the MPFL. The
Okay.
MPFL did away completely with the you know, the live sonar. So I mean, it'll be exciting. You know, it'll be a good change.
Yeah.
MLF Invitationals, they did it where it's 1 day with, 1 day without, 1 day with. So, you know, it'll be cool. You know,
Yeah.
and Bass Pro Tour did their thing with one period. I mean, that's gonna be kind of neat to watch. So,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, I
It
mean,
kind of
you know,
levels it'll level the field out, I think, a little bit. But Wheeler still, it doesn't matter with Wheeler.
Wheeler's gonna be. He was good before any of that. I mean, there's a
Right.
lot of guys that were really good before any of that. It's just now that they have it, they're like, you know, they're
Yeah.
super dangerous now. You know, it's like, man, I don't know. I mean, on their worst day, I don't know if I can hang with, you know. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, well, we'll see. It'll be fun. It'll be exciting next year.
Yeah. So another real quick, and then I'm going to have Norman. I promise. We're not going to try to hold you too much longer. With the tournament schedule, this next year with the Bass Elites, it is kind of interesting because there's no Alabama,
Hmm.
and but it does look like you're going to put more miles in a lot of truckers,
Yeah.
because you're going to go uh, from the Midwest out to the West Coast, Florida, back to the Midwest, and you're going to hit Texas like what 2 or 3 times. But what lake are you looking forward to going and fishing on this next year's schedule?
Gosh. Oh man, I don't know. I kind of like them all. I mean, I definitely, you know, Florida's always nice. St. John's River, you know, being the first
Right,
one. I know some of the guys are tired of it, but you know, it's still. I'm actually the section of the St. John's we're allowed to fish is very new to me because I
uh,
would always just run past that area, you know,
right, right,
and any of the tournaments. So I have been learning it probably the last 5 6 years, which is cool because I would never fish up that way. So that's kind of neat. So it's kind of like a different, you know, doesn't feel like home water, but it's kind of, and
right,
so I mean, I'm looking forward to that one. I mean, all of them are really good. I really like how we kind of, we don't really go anywhere super late, you know, later in the season when I think we go up north. I don't know. I'm like slightly exhausted, so I don't really quite have it memorized right
right,
now.
right. So
but yeah, but I think it's gonna be fun. I mean, I think it's kind of cool how we're gonna do some of those Bass Elites, and then the Classic's probably the one I'm the most excited about.
yeah,
I mean, we're
that's going.
going Ray Roberts in March. I mean, that place has got full of big ones. You know, I pretty much watched Hank win last time we were there, which
Yeah.
was really cool. You know, I was like, after the first day, I'm like, hey, I think you're gonna win. I'm gonna get away from you. You know, so that was, you know, so I mean that's going to be a good one. But I think what I'm really going to like is, you know, we're going to do those bass ones, and then the NPFLs run right in there. We're, you know,
Right.
pretty close nearby. We don't have to drive really far. So like there, I think there's one in Oklahoma. Bass is having one. A lake I've never been to. Maybe 10 killer
10 killer, I think that's what it was.
or one of that. I don't know if it's 10. It's something with a T. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you know, you go there, and then the very next week you go to MPFL Lake Eufaula, Oklahoma. So I mean that kind of being able to do that and doing, you know, the sonar, you know, fishing against the sonar guys in bass, and then going to MPFL where you're not using it. You know, it'll just be a good change of pace. You know.
Yeah.
Right, right.
So
So, Richard says, "Good luck next season, and thanks, Deck
Oh,
Talk
thanks, Richard.
Podcast. Y'all have a good night. Good
Thank,
night, Richard."
thank you, Richard.
So,
Thanks, Richard.
Norman, I'll let you. You ask old John our last question that we ask everybody that comes on here, brother.
Yeah, and we asked you this at in Knoxville, John, but we're gonna ask it to you once again.
Okay.
If you were to have one person on your boat and this person to fish with for the day, and this person could be passed away or still with us,
Yeah.
who would that person be, and why would you want to fish with them for the day?
Boy, man, I would I'd probably I'd probably take my dad with me, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I think it's time we get out there. I know he's always, you know, we didn't really fish much. We fished like a lot of bank fishing and
Yeah,
stuff, but
right.
you know, he follows it every second of it. So, you know,
yeah,
he probably knows what's going on.
yeah. That's awesome, man. That is awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and is there how like if people wants to keep track of you, what is your social media stuff that they can watch you and keep track of what you're doing?
Okay, you know, mostly I just post stuff on Instagram. It's like John Cox underscore fishing. There's a couple other John Coxes on there,
Yeah.
but you know you can find me on there. You know, I got some cool stuff coming up here next month. Me and Keith Carson, we're actually going to fish this team stuff. That's
Mm.
going to be kind of cool. It's going to be different.
Yeah,
We don't know much about it or anything, but I don't know. So stay tuned for that.
that's gonna be a
That's gonna
blast.
Yeah,
yeah, it's gonna I don't know if we're gonna catch anything, but we are gonna try. You know, fishing for another species in
Yeah,
tournaments. So
yeah.
that'd be
So,
cool.
but guys, thank you for coming on. We had over 1,300 people watching this, and so I strongly suggest that you go to Instagram and hit up John's Instagram. Start following him. I like to be able to get an email or a phone call or whatever saying, "Hey man, they wind up coming over to Instagram and lighting up my Instagram." But guys, man, thanks for staying on here watching this, and hope that to see you out on the water and live the passion, guys.
live the passion, guys.
All right.
Tight lines.
See you guys.
John, thanks, brother.
No problem. Thanks.